Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm your host, Amanda Lamb. It was off, and now it's on again. 1 year after 11-year-old dancer Hailey Brooks was accidentally run over and killed by a pickup truck pulling her dance school's float, as thousands of people watched, the status of the Raleigh Christmas Parade is more confusing than ever. Initially, the city refused to permit the parade, saying it was out of respect for Hailey's memory. The family then said they didn't ask for the parade to be canceled, so now it's back on again with new rules. WRAL's Matt Talhelm joins us to break it all down. And Matt, welcome to the program, first of all.
Of course.
And I know that you have just recently gotten out of a city council meeting where this has been a topic of discussion. I'm speaking to you Wednesday evening. So before we go into what happened at the meeting, let's reset and explain how this all started. Take us back to November 19, 2022.
Yeah, during the Christmas parade last year, it was all normal until that moment when that out of control pickup truck that was pulling a float went out of control and crashed into a crowd there and ran over 11-year-old Hailey Brooks. She was killed there right along Hillsborough Street in this parade. And that's what started all of this concern about the safety around parades. We saw a lot of different parades in our area change some of their requirements and regulations, but it was just such a tragedy there that so many people witnessed, and so many people are paying attention to, well, what happens next to make sure that this parade is safe and that doesn't happen again.
Absolutely. And I understand the initial decision from the city was, we're just going to cancel the parade. We don't have all the safety things in place. We're not ready. But that was met with a lot of pushback, correct?
It was. The city staff met, including several departments from special events to the legal team there at the city, and they decided that they could not approve the permit for the parade as it was, which includes the motorized vehicles, the floats, the typical parade that we've seen for 79 years almost. It'll be 79 years this year. So the city staff met with the organizers of the parade, including Shop Local Raleigh and the Greater Raleigh Merchants Association, Thursday, and told them we're denying the permit for the parade. A day later, they changed their minds and met and said, okay, well, let's compromise. We'll approve the parade, but without motorized vehicles and floats. Immediately, the community has responded to all of this, saying, we want our parade. We want what we've always had. This was an accident, a tragedy, of course. And we even heard from the Brooks family putting out a statement saying, we want this parade to go on as it is, just with some basic safety requirements. And that's exactly what's being proposed by and approved by the team that organizes this parade this year.
Yeah, so many layers to this. We will be right back to talk more about this after the break. Welcome back to the WRAL Daily Download. So the parade is back on, but without motorized vehicles, without floats, it's going to look a lot different this year. Explain where we are now as of this conversation. What's going to be allowed in the parade?
At this point, we're still where we were last Friday when that compromise was reached, that this Christmas parade can go on. It just cannot include motorized vehicles and floats. So you won't see the floats that are rolling down the street. You won't see the trolleys, the fire trucks, all those equipment that we are used to seeing in the parade. A lot of families and kids love to see in the parade. Still can be marching bands. There can be people walking in the parade. There can be groups that do their dance routines, just like Hailey Brooks was doing last year during this Christmas parade. But you won't have that, what some consider danger of those drivers and in the motorized vehicles that could possibly go out of control, like what happened last year. So at this point, that's where we are. There's been no action to reverse that decision from the city staff at this point, but that's what the city groups, the organizers of this parade, are appealing to city council to reconsider that.
And clearly, the big concern here is liability. And to be clear, there are some lawsuits pending right now regarding Hailey's death. So I would imagine that has got to play into some of these decisions.
Yeah, the city has said that legal concerns are part of this. There are also some laws that the state is looking to change. There's a law that's going through the General Assembly. It was passed by one body in the assembly, but not the other. So it's sort of stuck at this point. But it would create new safety regulations in memory of Hailey Brooks. But there is a lawsuit from the family that's challenging this the parade, saying there was a result of gross negligence and recklessness of both the driver, Landon Glass, and the organizations that put this on. So they're suing all of them right now. And I think that at this point, the city has some concern that that could happen to the city as well. The city is not named in that lawsuit at this point, and that's one of the concerns I think that's causing them to be extra cautious this year and say, we're just not going to allow any of this. Interestingly, though, two other parades have gone on so far this year and allowed to have floats and motorized vehicles.
Right, that one of them was the St. Patrick's Day parade, correct?
Correct. And it only had a handful versus the Christmas parade, which had more than 50 floats in it. So there's definitely a difference in size there and safety threat, but it only takes one vehicle for something like this to happen. So that's a point that the Shop Local Raleigh group is really bringing up here is other parades were allowed to go on. Why can't ours?
Yeah, and I know that in light of what happened last year, Raleigh did put some new rules in place regarding the parades, regarding the drivers of the vehicles, how they are inspected, licensed, all of that, the ages of the drivers. So they do have some new rules in place, but I guess what they're saying is we don't feel like it's enough. Plus, the legislature is considering some laws, and if they went into effect very close to parade time, it would be hard, I would imagine, to all of a sudden implement them.
Right. And the Shop Local Raleigh team that organizes the Christmas parade says they are ready to adapt and change in a moment's notice. They have a company that they're already working with, a consulting company that's a safety consultant group that they say could be here on site to do day of inspections of vehicles and the tows and the trailers. And they say that they could be ready in a moment's notice. So they're prepared to put in all these safety requirements in place as soon as the city would allow them to have these vehicles in the parade, if and when that happens. They've also put in additional things, as you mentioned, 21 and up for drivers. Passenger would have to be 21 and up and be required to ride along in there. Front windows would have to be rolled down. They'd have to know the capacity for towing for their vehicle as well, and be subject to that day of inspection and have to present all of the inspection history and registration history here to make sure it's all current.
So it sounds like some common sense rules, that they're talking about. And I guess, again, just to circle back, a lot of disappointment here because people are used to seeing a certain type of parade. They've seen it for many years. And I think it's just, people are disappointed, correct?
Right. And we heard from two other community members who showed up at 1 o'clock in the afternoon to a city council meeting just because they wanted to make that point that we want this Christmas parade to go on. We don't think that this is right to change it just because of one accident. One of those speakers even said accidents happen every day, so let's just cancel everything, and trying to make a point that if they would go that route, everything would be canceled because those accidents can happen all the time. And even seeing that Hailey Brooks' family wants this parade to go on as it has, with all the traditions that people are used to, just with those basic safety requirements. If they are comfortable with it, it makes a lot of people say, well, then why can't we just do what we've done for 79 years with these requirements in place? Sure.
Well, Matt, thank you so much for bringing us up to date on this developing story. I know you will continue to follow it. For more news from WRAL, sign up for the WRAL Morning Briefing newsletter. You'll be informed and ready to face the day with one concise email. Sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter. Thanks for listening to the WRAL Daily Download.